Welcome, everyone, to the 60 Seconds of Stoicism podcast. I am your host, Ryan Lee Mays. With me, as always, is my wife, Melinda.
Hey, guys.
Welcome to the only 60-second podcast that lasts for a half hour. We are doing a two-parter here. We did a part last week on being in due time, letting yourself grow, mature, not trying to rush things, enjoying things as they naturally come. We kind of likened it to the process of growing. When you plant a seed, you got to let time for it to grow, to be watered, to get sunlight. And when you do that, then you have something great afterwards. You bear this fruit. And that's what we're going to talk a little bit about this week. We're on a different system this week. We're kind of recording remotely with this. But hopefully everything sounds okay. You guys can hear this. We're going to just kind of talk about the bearing fruit part of it, because this is probably the most important part. Once you have put the time and the effort and the patience in growing and developing who you are, getting things in due time, creating a business or part of a culture, or even just growing into becoming good parents and good people, then you start to bear fruit. And this is something that you can actually give to others. And I guess the phenomenon that I want to talk about is people letting their fruit die, not giving it to others because of different reasons. And I'm going to kind of discuss that in just a second here. But I first want to read just a quick, actually we're starting with a scripture today rather than a Stoic quote, though we're going to have plenty of those. John 12, it says, "Verily, verily, I say unto you, except a corn of wheat fall into the ground and die, it abideth alone. But if it dies, it bringeth forth much fruit. He that loveth his life shall lose it, and he that hateth his life in this world shall keep it unto life eternal." So I kind of like the imagery here. We're talking so much on an agricultural base from last week to this week about something being planted and growing and bearing fruit. But here he's saying that unless you allow that seed, that fruit, so to speak, of you to die and grow up into something beautiful to help people, then you're not truly alive in this life. And if you want to just hold on to that fruit you have and not give it to others, then according to this scripture, you're going to lose your life eternal for that. Your reward is the fruit you're keeping to yourself. So let's kind of put that into a concept for people. Let's say you're good at, maybe you're good at building things, and you are only building things for yourself and no one else. Great. You've got an amazing skill. It's going to be beneficial for you, but you are using that skill to help other people. You're bearing a fruit for them. You're saying, this is what I have matured into. This is the joyous good part of me for being so patient and letting things come in due time. I become a skilled builder. Maybe it's a teacher. You have this ability to teach, yet you refuse to do it. You have the ability to speak in front of people or to educate or to talk on issues that could help people get deeper understanding. And instead you say, you know what, I just don't really want to do it. I know it's my calling. I don't want to do it. I'd rather just stay at home and not do it. You're letting your fruit die through all of that. I want to read something from Epictetus, and this is a little bit of a lengthy Stoic quote here, but please stay with me through it. I'm going to kind of cut it halfway in the middle so we can explain it and then finish it out. So Epictetus says in his discourses, look, why do ears of wheat grow? It's so they can become dry, isn't it? And they become dry so that they can be harvested, don't they? Because they don't exist in isolation. So if they were conscious, they'd be bound to pray never to be harvested, wouldn't they? So here he's talking about, these ears of wheat. It has to die. It has to wither out to be harvested, to turn into things like, bread and pastries, all the things that we love here in this society. If the wheat didn't go through that process, it would be useless. But if it were sentient, if it were alive, it would say, don't harvest me. I don't want to be taken. I just want to live my life. I want to be good for that. So that's what he's saying through all this. But it's a curse, he goes on to say, but it's a curse for ears of wheat not to be harvested. By the same token, I assure you, it's a curse for people not to die. It's no different from wheat nor ripening and not being harvested. But since it is we ourselves who are bound to be harvested, we also understand that we are the things being harvested. We get upset because we don't want to think about that. I'm supposed to spend my life helping people and then I just die and then that's it. I want everything for myself, to keep it to myself for my own enjoyment, my own betterment. and I really don't want to take the time to give it to other people. So I guess maybe my first question is, through this, what's the danger in, or maybe not even the danger, maybe that's not the right word, what's the selfishness in keeping fruits to ourselves and not giving them to other people?
Well, obviously we know that anything that we learn or that we keep for ourselves, yeah, it's benefiting you, but how then do I teach my kids to go on into the world? Or me as a teacher, holding all this knowledge or life experience that I've experienced, but then not pass it on to these kids. So we talked the other day about, taking care of things and nurturing things. And, am I going to coddle something or am I going to properly nurture something? I feel like properly nurturing something is using those gifts and those talents, and you're passing it then on to that child, to that person that you're taking care of, whether it's your own child or someone else that you're mentoring. And so if you nurture something right, it too then can bear those same fruits and pass them on to the next.
That's good. I like that. It's kind of like the metaphor of a sunflower seed dripping its seeds, It's losing little pieces of itself, but every seed that hits the ground grows into another sunflower. So when we're passing on our fruits to other people, the things that we've learned to be good at, the things that we're blessed to be good at, then that in turn is helping to raise them that way. And how many times have we said that in society when somebody says, oh, you're so good at that? And you say, well, I got that from my father, or I got that from my mom, or I learned that from my uncle, or I learned that, from whatever. It's those seeds that are passed on that bring fruit for other generations. I think of a brilliant man, Eli Whitney, who created the cotton gin. Like, it's the most brilliant invention at the time. It took a job that was so incredibly hard and mundane and sped it up greatly. Now imagine if he had created this and just said, I'm just going to keep it for myself. I'm going to use this for my own area, and that's it. And man, it's so cool I came up with this, and that's it. Instead, he shared something. He shared an invention that revolutionized an entire industry because he allowed his seeds to fall. He put them out in other places and said, I'm going to let other people grow up and become good at these things and have their own businesses and their own farms and be able to profit from this. And he didn't keep it to himself. Now, some people do this in not a great way. We're going to talk about that towards the end in a more selfish way. But I think it's really just a good idea of thinking it kind of in the terms of that plant. Like you said, just letting the seeds fall and grow into other things rather than keeping them for ourselves. I want to read John 15:5. He says, I am the vine and you are the branches. He that abideth in me and I in him, the same bringeth forth much fruit, for without me you can do nothing. So here in John, he's talking about God saying, without me in your life, there's no fruit. There's nothing you can do. I think that goes even beyond those who believe in God. I think that goes for anybody that's given something. If that talent hadn't been cultivated in you by someone else or something else, you wouldn't have it. It wouldn't exist. Something had to bring you to it. Mm-hmm. And some people say, well, I taught myself how to do this completely on my own. Did you? Did you ever ask anybody what tool to use? Did you ever watch a YouTube tutorial? Did you ever?
That's true.
Those are all people that have watered and sunlight on your plant that's growing. So yes, you may have had the wherewithal to do most of it by yourself, but somebody contributed to it. And if they didn't, you wouldn't have grown for it. I think for myself, I'm an average drawer. I think I've lost a lot since I was young because I don't do it much anymore.
No.
But when I was a kid, what I used to do was I would take pages out of comic books and I would tape them on my window. And then I would put a piece of paper over them and I would trace them. And that's kind of how I taught myself to draw. I learned how to do lines and proportions and things like that. So I could say, well, I taught myself how to draw. But I still had to trace something that was drawn by somebody else. I saw how to do the light on the window from using a light box at school from to trace.
That was from somebody else.
Exactly. That was from somebody else. So all of those little, that bit of watering, that bit of sunlight, that bit of cultivating all helped me to learn how to do that. Yes, I didn't really have any formal training in school for that, but something contributed to it. So then the responsibility to me becomes, how do I teach that to other people? And so I was at school the other day for a little event for one of our teachers is leaving, and I have 5 kids around me all asking me to draw. And I'm teaching them how to draw dinosaurs and how to make shapes to make them look like other animals, things like that. So we have to kind of press that on, because if we don't, then we're going to become very stagnant, trying to just keep everything to ourselves. I did it. I learned how to do it. It's important to me. I really don't care if it's important to you. You figure it out on your own. That's such a selfish way to look at it. Another one I want to talk about is Marcus Aurelius. So Marcus Aurelius had a lot of fruits in his life. He had a lot of abilities. Here was a guy who was kind of forced into being an emperor. I don't want to say forced. He'd rather have not have been an emperor. Let's put it that way. Mm-hmm. Marcus Aurelius wanted to be a philosopher. That's where he found his enjoyment. He loved philosophy. He practiced it at a very early age. He wanted to probably just write and be a philosopher, yet he was put in a position where he could be an emperor. Right away when he puts his brother in power as with him and says, we're going to be co-emperors on this. And Marcus had these abilities to naturally lead, to be a man of the people, that they would follow him, to withstand some of the most major hardships that come, to be smart. Like when he was going through this Antonine Plague, and he's selling off all the things that are in his palace, because he's like, this is money I can give back to the people that we can help, feed people and things like that. Like he had this ability, and he didn't hide it. But there was one ability he had that he hid very, very well, at least as far as we know, and that was his ability to write. And so we have this amazing book, Meditations, which, after his death, it came into the popular culture there at the time. People started reading it and started hearing about it, but he never meant it to come out. It was something that he hid for himself. It was his own enjoyment. But look what happened once that fruit got out to the public. It has created a phenomenon that's lasted 2,000 years. Where people have said, this is brilliant. This man lived his life selflessly. He lived his life to understand kindness towards human beings. He lived in simplicity. He lived in forgiveness. Like he lived in all the things. Same thing goes for the Bible. Had that never been out, had that collection of letters and scriptures and all those things never been assembled, we wouldn't have the largest religion in the world right now. It would not have existed. So fruit has to get out in order to help people. And thankfully for Marcus, his did eventually. So he got out. Speaking of Marcus, I want to read something from his Meditations. Again, just keep this in mind. This fruit would have never been out had somebody not pushed it out after his death. There are 3 kinds of men in this world. The first, when he helps someone out, makes it known that he expects something in return. So we all know these people. Yeah, I'll help you out, but you hit me up for $50 if I come help you move or whatever. That's okay. To me, that's like a negotiating tactic, or I'll help you this weekend, but can you help me next weekend? That kind of quid pro quo type of thing where you're like, okay, I understand. All the cards are on the table. I help you, you help me. That's just the understanding of it. Okay. Now the second kind of man would never be so bold. But in his mind, he knows that he has what he has done and considers the other person to be in his debt. These are tricky people, and we've done it ourselves. Everybody, if you're being very honest, you've done this yourself. All right, I'm going to do them this favor, but they owe me one. Well, the next time they get me mad, I'm going to remind them that I did this for them. Does that take away from the act of helping them then?
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
It really wasn't done from your heart.
No. It's done to either get something out of it eventually down the line, or even to say, I'm better than you.
Yeah.
I'm going to help you out because then I can kind of lord it over you that you had to come to me and ask for help. So
you can hold it over somebody's head.
Yes, exactly. The third person somehow doesn't realize what he has done, but he's like a vine that bears its fruit and asks for nothing more than the pleasure of producing grapes. I love that. We all know people that have so much talent and just freely give it. Think about that as a grapevine as he's putting it in there. You have all these grapes over here and people are just plucking them off one at a time. But he doesn't care. This person doesn't care. He just continues to bear his fruits.
Mm-hmm.
You know, take one off my arm, take one off my leg, you know, take whatever you need from me because there's more. There's more to spend. There's more to grow. There's more to give out. And that's such a beautiful concept. Like, that's what we should be. Where we're so happy to help others that it's what our purpose is as a plant. You know, growing and bearing these fruits. It's just to help others. Now he goes on to say, a horse gallops, a dog hunts, a bee makes honey, one man helps another, and the vine bears fruit in due season. He compares it to something just so natural with everything else. Like a horse is going to gallop, of course, it's what a horse does. A dog's going to hunt, that's what a dog does. A bee makes honey, that's what a bee does. And men help others, that's what we do.
Yeah. It's our purpose.
That's our purpose in all of that. I guess my next question is, can people do this nefariously? Like I guess we kind of touched on it a little bit, but I'm going to help you because I have an ulterior motive behind it. I kind of have something in my head. So I'll go first. Then you think. Ulterior motive. Sometimes helping can be manipulation.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Sometimes bearing your fruit, and again, we kind of just talked about this a little bit from what Marcus Aurelius said about, you know, holding it over people's heads, but sometimes bearing fruit to somebody using their abilities is a way to control that person.
Yeah.
Now you know next time you need help, you have to come to me. Now you know that you can't live your life without me because I'm giving you the money that I earned, or I've got power to introduce you to the right people to help advance your career. So you are in my debt the whole time for that. That clearly goes against what Marcus Aurelius is saying. This is something that's freely given without expecting anything in return. Like he said, the vine doesn't know that it's bearing the fruit. It just does it because it's the right thing to do. And people are taking it. We have to watch out for those people because they can come into our lives very easily and manipulate us with words. And you've gone through with people you've known in your life, people that have been manipulative with their words towards you.
Oh yeah, definitely.
What's one way you can kind of recognize that manipulation where it seems like they're doing so much good for you, but really under the surface, they're kind of manipulating you to their own way?
Wow. Well, that's happened in relationships, past relationships that I've been in, because, you know, they were so used to living in a past of hurt and people hurting them and using them. So then I think that then kind of became a part of them, and where they didn't even really need to do that with me, you know, because of the kind of person that I was. It naturally came to them to just do that to me. And so I didn't recognize it at first, I would say, you know, cause I was raised as such a forgiving and kind person that over time I continued to just be manipulated. And over the years I started to recognize and started to see it, but it drained me, you know, because I would be so kind and so forgiving, and it hurt me, it hurt my kids, and it really started to take a lot of who I was as a person. And so it was a lot of manipulation that was being held over me, and then kind of turned me into a person to where it was kind of like I couldn't so freely give myself, because now there was a lot of hesitation, a lot of walls, and a lot of, you know, untrust, like just like a lot of trust issues, you know, because it was like, are you really a person that's carrying the fruits of the Holy Spirit, or are you a real person, or are you going to hurt me?
Interesting.
You know, so yeah.
So about the bearing the fruit thing, how that fruit can corrupt another
It could, yeah.
The fruits the other
It
because you're
really
afraid
did.
to give your fruits because you're
Yeah.
afraid to be taken advantage of.
Oh yeah, because I was taking advantage of a lot, and even my kids. So meanwhile, I'm trying to teach my kids, be this, but then at the same time, it was just like, oh, but also be careful because you didn't know. Sometimes, but I think now I'm starting to be able to recognize it, but then also be able to let go of some of that,
Sure.
be a little more knowledgeable, be a little more dependent on prayer and God, and saying, God, you guide me, you show me, you help me through this, show me if this person really is worthy of my time and in my giving and who I am. God says that we should, protect our heart.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not so freely just giving that to someone. You wouldn't just open your door to anybody who knocks on that door.
Mm-hmm.
We're careful about that. So I started to learn it's okay. It's okay to protect my heart. It's okay to protect who I am and who I give that fruit to and who I allow that, because I wouldn't just open the door to anybody and just say, come on in. So the same thing with my life and my heart and my family. And so I started to understand what that really meant,
Oh, that's good. That's very good. It makes me think of, we have an ornamental orange tree in our backyard. And supposedly the kids have tasted it and said they taste good. But it's an ornamental orange tree that's out there. And a lot of times those oranges, they look pretty on there, but then when you take them off and taste them, they're corrupt. They're disgusting. They're just there for looks. And man, what a great, basing off what you said, a great comparison to these people that bear false fruit.
Mm-hmm.
We think, oh man, look at how beautiful this is. They're helping us out. But when we really look at it, it's disgusting inside. The motive is bad. It tastes horrible. It sets our teeth on edge.
Mm-hmm.
And we really have to be careful what we pluck off of what tree for people trying to bear fruit for us. I think it takes a lot of investigation into who the person is. Saying, thank you so much for helping me out, but I mean, is it okay if I just ask, why did you choose to help me out? And man, that might seem like looking a gift horse in the mouth. But at the same time, you want to know who they are, what they're coming from, where their motivation is. We have to make sure that the fruit that we're bearing for other people isn't corrupt. Mm-hmm. That it's not done begrudgingly, or it's done with so much animosity that I have to do this. Like, oh, okay, I'm going to help you, but I hate this. Like, that kind of thing.
Yeah. It
goes against what Aurelia says about the vine not knowing this good fruit. Just take the good fruit. I'm here to help. And in turn, you thrive. When a plant is not pruned correctly, it dies. It has to drop its fruit. It has to prune itself so they can continue going. If we try to keep all of that positiveness to us, we will die. It's not a good life. And yes, it may not be a physical death because I'm not willing to draw a banner for your friend's 18th birthday party because, I'm being an artist. But what it does is it increases your selfishness of who you are. And that's just as corrupt. That's kind of that pesticide on the plant that eventually seeps in and kills it. Mm-hmm. So we want to make sure that we're continuing to grow. But again, those that are trying to offer you fruit, beware, because it may be corrupt, and in turn makes you corrupt. Our last passage for today from Marcus Aurelius is, everything bears fruit, man, God, and the universe, each in its own season. It doesn't matter that this manner of speaking is customarily reserved for the vine and other plants. Reason also bears fruit, both for itself and for everything else, and all its fruits taste of sweet reasonableness. I love that, sweet reasonableness. Is this reasonable? Does this make sense? Is this good for me to do? Because that is kind of the measure in how you should bear your fruit to others. Is this reasonable? Now, because a person has asked you 10 weeks in a row to give up your weekends and your time away from your family to help them with some project, doesn't mean you have to keep doing it. That's not reasonable. Now, saying, yes, absolutely, I'll help you out now, and in a couple weeks I've got some time then, and that's reasonable. But saying, I'm going to completely devote myself to what you need, and not take care of the other people around me, that's not reasonable. We want to bear the fruit because we want to give our talents to others, but we also cannot be taken advantage of.
Yeah.
And that's super important. Because, see, a lot of people do a lot of plucking of your fruit and no bearing of their own. They want to pull all the grapes off your vine, but they don't have any others for anyone else. So as we put it here from Marcus Aurelius, sweet reasonableness is how we decide how and when to bear our fruit and use the fruit from others. I guess, do you have any other comments before we wrap up here? Do you want to say?
No, I think that you've covered most of it. It'd be nice. Like, let's go through the fruits of the Holy Spirit, Yeah. I'm not sure if you did that.
I don't have it pulled up here, but do you have it pulled up?
So, that includes, love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. I think that those are all, very good. It's a good spiritual guidance that we need to have. Mm-hmm. And if we touch on all those, I like how it's not just beneficial for us, but it's beneficial for living accordingly. It's a guide to, how we should be as humans, mm-hmm. how we should serve other people, but also having that self-control on our end as well, and just passing that on to our children, to other generations.
Yeah. And some of those things on that list seem like selfish things when you say that. Like joy and peace. Well, that's you having joy and that's you having peace. Mm-hmm. Like that's not... No, that is a fruit that bears out to other people.
To other people, yeah.
They see the happiness in your life and then they come up to you and say, what are you doing? Like, man, my life is in such darkness now. Why are you seem happy all the time? Why are you always greeting me in the morning with a smile? Why are you doing... Well, here, let me introduce you to something, I went to church yesterday and I had such a great sermon. Just it's in my head and I have a smile on my face, that kind of thing. Or, the peace. I love that. That's a fruit of the Holy Spirit to have peace, mm-hmm. And when people see that, they want that. It radiates out. It bears good fruit mm-hmm. that people want to pluck. And that's our opportunity to spread that. So very good. I guess we did a 2-part on this because it was going to go into an hour and I kind of wanted to split it up from episode to episode. But what it all culminates down to is we need to be patient. Mm-hmm. We need to let things in life unfold the way they are supposed to. We're not to rush. Otherwise, if we do rush and we start to bear fruit, it'll be unsweet. It'll be not viable. It'll be rotten and not of use to anybody. But once the fruit does bear, it is our responsibility and our obligation to our fellow man to allow people to use that fruit. Mm-hmm. With the idea that we need to be reasonable about how they use that fruit. But never hold it only for yourself. Because if you don't allow that fruit to drop off the vine, if you don't allow it to be pruned off naturally as people use it to help them, you'll wither up and die. It may not be a physical death. You might live to be 110 years old. But it can be a spiritual death. It can be a relational death. It can be like a lot of these people that are just crotchety and mad at life because of the things that have happened to them that nobody wants to pluck anything from them. They don't even want to be in their garden. It's like those dried up weeds. We walked past this weekend. We were in Williams and we walked past this beautiful, or once was beautiful garden. Yeah. That was just dried over and weeds. And my wife and I said the same thing. Like, what a shame. This was once probably a beautiful garden, mm-hmm. but it stopped bearing fruit. It stopped being watered and taken care of. So as long as we're doing those things, we're allowing ourselves to be reasonable in how we give and receive our fruits, we're going to grow and thrive. We will our entire life.
We have to trust, or I should say I have to trust God and I have to follow His lead so that things are not done prematurely. I'm growing, I'm properly growing, I'm burying it, in the right time and plucking in the right time and spreading that in the right time. So it's literally following his lead.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, everyone, that will do it. Thank you guys all for tuning in this week. We appreciate you. Thanks for subscribing. You can catch us on YouTube and subscribe there. Well, we've taken a little hiatus from doing videos, but there'll be a new one up this week. We're going to start a new thing called Fireside Chats, where we're going to actually answer some questions that you have and kind of just do a discussion. It's going to be on a wide array of things. So please tune into that. But thank you guys so much for all your support. And until we see you guys next time, as always, Semper Studiosus. Thank
Good
you
night,
guys.
guys.